I wanted to cover the topic of self-love and how self-love affects our lives. Mainly just because it's a topic that affects so many people. I think there are just so many ways that, self-love or lack of self-love really affects us. So I mean, there's if you're really struggling with confidence, or, you think that you're not good enough at something, or that you don't have the skills, or someone else is better than you. Or then there's just lacking in self-worth, or lacking in confidence in other ways. It might be to do with your image, that you think you're not pretty, or you think that you're not beautiful, or that you don't fit the stereotype of what beauty is. But then I think there are other people who maybe don't recognise it so much. So maybe they don't have an obvious confidence problem. Maybe they see themselves as confident people, but then when it comes to doing certain things, like maybe they want to apply for a job with, I don't know, that has a better salary, or maybe you want to approach someone on the street and you just want to say to them, oh hey, I really love what you're wearing, or you recognise someone and you want to walk up to them and you want to say, oh hey, have we met before? But something stops you. Something stops you and you don't realise what it is. And then afterwards you tell yourself that it's because you didn't have enough time, or just it just wasn't a good idea. But often the basis of it is, lack of confidence, at least in that moment, and we don't always even recognise it. One of the reasons I think that, we really need to address this and talk about this is because I think it's holding so many of us back from what we could be. And I know potential is just such a general word, but I just mean that, I think it's keeping us from so much happiness. And I think that happens in two ways, because I think firstly it's keeping us from happiness in that, we have all these negative thoughts that are really bringing us down, so we just lose happiness in that moment. But I also think then there's the second way, where we're losing happiness because we're not doing the things that we need to do, doing the actions and taking the steps that we need to take to create the lives that really reflect who we are, the lives that we could live, like the amazing lives that we could live that are really right for us, and we're just not taking those steps because we just don't quite have that confidence and we just don't have that level of self-love to do it. When I was younger, confidence was something that I really struggled with. I mean, when I was very small, I was actually really talkative, and then something about that changed. I was used to being around adults, and I was really talkative around adults, but I was really shy around kids my own age, and I found that really difficult. Like the whole of my childhood, really, I found that really hard. When I was in primary school, when I was in secondary school, I found it really hard to start conversations, or even just keep conversations going. It's like either my mind would just go completely blank, or on the other hand, I would know so much what I wanted to say, but I just couldn't bring myself to say it. It's like I had a block, and I was just so shy, and it was something that I really struggled with. I also had a lot of problems with things like guilt and just anxiety and overanalyzing things. I felt like my mind, and I still do a lot of the time, I felt like my mind was going so fast, like 100, 150 miles an hour all of the time. And there were just so many thoughts that sometimes it was hard to keep up. And sometimes it just used to feel like I would get stuck in certain thoughts, and I would get stuck in like a negative pattern, and I'd keep feeding it, hoping that eventually I would just get to the end of the rope, that I would get to the end of the road there, and that there would just be no more negative thoughts that could come. So I would just keep going and going, hoping that eventually I could just convince my mind to leave it alone. And it wasn't until much, much later that I realised that actually that doesn't work, that the more you engage with it, the more you snowball it, basically. It was actually a long time before I realised that it was actually okay to let those thoughts go, and that was actually the brave thing to do, to let them go. Because I always wanted to sort of keep engaging with them, because the thought of just leaving them there without trying to prove to myself that the thoughts weren't true, or that I was okay, leaving it without trying to prove that to myself felt really hard. But it was actually the right thing to do, because the more I engaged with it, the worse it got, and you know, the less resourceful I felt, and the less good I felt in myself, the less relaxed I felt. But if I just let it go, and I just took that sort of brave step to not keep trying to prove to myself that everything was okay, if I just let it go, then I was actually, you know, able to eventually find sort of like peace of mind by finding the peace and the calm. It's sort of in my head. You know, when we look at anyone who's ever achieved anything, they achieved what they achieved because they believed that they could do it. And if they hadn't believed that they could do it, then they never would have managed it. And here's the thing, I don't think it's just about believing in yourself. It's about actually thinking that you're enough, not just that you're good enough to achieve the thing that you want to achieve, but that you actually have the right to go after it, and that you have the right to succeed. None of those people were ever given permission. You know, they didn't look for permission from anyone to be told that they had the right to go after it. You know, they knew that the only person who would be able to give them that permission was them. I think one of the places where we go really off course, and this has happened to me as well, and it's only more recently that I've realised what it is that's actually been happening. And I think what happens is we hear other people's opinions, and we allow other people's opinions of us to be more important, more dominant in how we feel than our own opinions of us. We have to remember that other people can't tell us what we're capable of because they don't know. You know, other people can't tell us who we are because they don't know. And other people can't define us. They can try, but other people don't define who we are. We define who we are. If you liked the video, then please comment, or, you know, go over to my Instagram, follow me on there. And if you'd like to see more of my videos, then please hit the subscribe button, and I will see you soon.